his 2021 qualifying attempt at COTA. Both AlphaTauris were knocked out for the 5th time this season in Q2, Pierre Gasly having struggled immensely to get his car to turn at 1 and 11, and the pair were split by Zhou Guanyu, whose lap time was deleted for a track limits violation, which elevated Lando Norris into the top 10 by the skin of his teeth. Finally for Q3, and it was Carlos Sainz on pole for the US Grand Prix, with a time of 1:34.3, to secure his second pole of the season and the second of his career, ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc, who took his best qualifying at COTA as well, but will reap none of the benefits of it, thanks to his 10-place grid penalty. The Red Bull pairing of Max and Checo disappointed in 3rd and 4th, especially after the Dutchman's pole in the US last season, and the Mercs followed, Lewis Hamilton coming out on top, as he had all weekend. Lance Stroll finished 7th, his best qualifying performance since that pole in Turkey 2 years ago, ahead of Lando Norris, who continues his 8-race Q3 streak. Fernando Alonso was 9th, 9 places up on his teammate, and Bottas rounded out the top 10, his first Q3 appearance since Hungary. So after all of the grid penalties were accounted for, the starting grid was Sainz, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Stroll, Norris, Bottas, Albon, Perez, Vettel, Gasly, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Alonso, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Ocon, Schumacher, Zhou, and Latifi. Now onto my driver of qualifying, and it's Lance Stroll. Aston Martin have been making stride after stride in the right direction in the past few weeks, and for the Canadian to secure his 3rd best quali of his career as the best of the rest is exceedingly impressive, and a testament to how effective Aston Martin's many upgrades have been over the past season. It's also important to remember that Stroll has been knocked out in Q1 11 times this season. This only his 2nd top 10, so this may only be a flash in the pan, but wow, what a showing. Even better news for Stroll is that after all of the grid penalties, he started the race in the top 5, which put him in prime position to score yet more points on Sunday. Now onto my team of qualifying, and it's Ferrari, who took a 1-2 on pace alone for the 3rd time this season. This pole position for Carlos Sainz, his 2nd of the season, also places him in good stead to continue on his charge to overtake George Russell in the Drivers' Championship. Finally, for my struggle of qualifying, and it's Pierre Gasly. Even though the Frenchman got into 13th before being bumped up to 11th after the grid penalties, it was a pain to watch him traverse the track, as he locked up in the AlphaTauri at turn 1 and 11 nearly every lap. The car looked undrivable in the heavy tailwind, and there was a breeze on the cards on Saturday as well. Now onto the race, and it was Max Verstappen who took his 13th victory of the season, bringing him up to his old number of 33 career race victories in Formula 1, and his 13th of the season, tying him with Schumacher and Vettel on most victories in a single season. This performance from Max also helped Red Bull secure their 5th World Constructors' Championship. The 2-time world champ finished just ahead of the 7-time world champ Lewis Hamilton, who took his first podium since Hungary, moving him up to 198 points on the year in 6th, now only 4 behind Carlos Sainz. But it could have been so much more for the Brit. Verstappen went into the lead at the first corner, driving swiftly away from the rest of the field, whilst Lewis made his way up a spot to 2nd. Hamilton came in on lap 11, dropping to 7th, before Max did the same 3 laps later. Hamilton got back into the podium places on lap 17 with a move on Vettel, before pitting for the second time on lap 35, dropping to 6th. Verstappen followed suit next lap, but had a torrid stop of almost 12 seconds, exiting outside of the top 5. Max and Leclerc jockeyed for P5 on lap 40, with the two swapping places at turns 1 and 11, before Verstappen eventually came out on top. Whilst Max recovered, Hamilton flourished, overtaking Sebastian Vettel, who managed to reach 3,500 laps led in his career in this Grand Prix at turn 1 for the lead. After Vettel eventually pitted, the gap between Hamilton in the lead and Verstappen in second was 6 seconds long. But the battle with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen helped to edge the Dutchman ever closer to the Brit until, with 7 laps to go, Hamilton predictably fell foul of Max after an immense multi-corner battle. There was some late drama at the front as well, as both drivers were shown the black and white flag for track limits violations. But Max eased to yet another victory, 9 points off 400 on the season. Charles Leclerc ended up in 3rd place, his 5th podium in a row, the first time he has achieved this in his career. He is now on 267 points, 2 up on rival Perez, who finished a place behind. After starting 12th, thanks to his grid penalty, Leclerc was unfazed, moving up to 9th on lap 2, before passing Gasly, Norris and Stroll for 6ths with 40 to go. On lap 18, Valtteri Bottas spun out of the Grand Prix from the points at the penultimate corner, the Finn still with 0 points since Montreal. The spin beached the Alfa Romeo and brought out the safety car, under which the Monegasque pitted. Charles went for a move from very deep on Sergio Perez on lap 30 for 4th, before pitting on lap 36, and benefiting from Max's terrible stop, coming out ahead of his childhood nemesis. As well as this being his first podium in the United States, it is also his first podium from lower than 7th on the grid. Now on to Perez in 4th, with the 12 points provided from this 4th place, sadly dropping him from 2nd in the championship. He made contact with Bottas in the opening lap from his grid place of 9th, losing his front wing end plate in the process. This did not halt his progress though, as the Mexican passed both Aston Martins before lap 10, before pitting on lap 15, and doing so for a second time on lap 39, with a 3.2 stop, which almost led to him losing out to George Russell, who secured his first top 5 finish since that podium in Monza, putting him 16 points ahead of Sainz in 4th in the championship. The Brit spun out his rival Sainz at turn 1 from pole, leading to the Spaniard's second retirement on the first lap in 2 races, and was given a 5-second time penalty for his troubles. Before he served this penalty on lap 14, falling to 9th, George passed Lance Stroll, moving up into the podium places. Russell pitted for the second time on lap 37, coming out just behind Kevin Magnussen, but managing to repass the Dane before the end of the lap. Russell pitted prior to the last lap in order to take the fastest one, adding a single point to his tally for the first time this year. P6 would go the way of Lando Norris, which leaves the Brit with 109 points on the year, also reducing the gap between McLaren and Alpine in the Constructors' Championship to only 6 points. Lando pitted for the first time on lap 15, losing out to the AlphaTauri duo on lap 22. He pitted once more on lap 35 before going on a rampage in the final 15 laps, moving down the inside of Tsunoda on lap 43 for 11th, getting back into the points with a pass on Zhou, going around the outside of Albon at turn 1 and doing the same to Ocon at turn 11 on lap 46. Norris then passed K-Mag on a one-stopper, moving up to 7th with 3 laps to go as he beat out Alonso on the back straight. Seb Vettel scored points for the 3rd race in a row for the first time this season with 7th place, putting up 6 more points on the Aston Martin charge against Alfa Romeo in the Constructors' Championship, who they are now only 1 point behind. Both Astons had an incredible start to the Grand Prix, Lance Stroll moving into the podium places, whilst Vettel achieved P5. Vettel pitted under the Bottas SC, but the second stop would be his undoing, as a nearly 17-second stop on lap 42 dropped the German to 13th. However, he launched a recovery, moving into 9th on Alex Albon before a clutch pass on K-Mag on the final lap of the race secured him 7th, and 38 points so far this season. Kevin Magnussen started in the opposite manner to Vettel, dropping 5 places on the opening lap and losing out to Gasly for 11th on lap 17. He also pitted under the safety car on lap 19, tussling with Esteban Ocon after the end of the period under yellow flags on lap 26. P8 on a one-stopper snaps a 7-race streak without points, moving the Dane past Gasly in the standings to 13th, whilst his teammate Schumacher dropped the ball again, pitting from the points on lap 34 and being unable to recover, as he was forced off the track by Nicholas Latifi, who was given a 5-second time penalty for this offence, and was then handed a time penalty himself for track limits violations. Gunther said he wanted points from Mick, and he failed to deliver once again, finishing 14th. Yuki Tsunoda managed 9th, finally scoring points after 12 races outside of the top 10. Esteban Ocon rounded out the top 10, having started from a pit lane after taking a fresh engine under parc fermé conditions, following his shameful qualifying of only 18th. The Frenchman passed Schumacher early on, pitting alongside 12th place Albon on lap 19 under the safety car, doing the same on lap 46, falling to 16th but recovering well to P10, his first point at COTA since 2017. Zhou Guanyu was P11, having pitted on lap 24 after running over debris caused by the crash between Alonso and Stroll, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Gasly has still never scored at Austin, having been handed a 5-second time penalty on lap 33 for falling further than 10 lengths behind the safety car during its second outing of the day. He was later investigated for not having served this penalty correctly, despite dropping to the back of the grid, and his race was pretty much crippled from then on. Fernando Alonso finished the race in 7th place, pitting under the Bottas safety car on lap 19, before passing Pierre Gasly after the green flag flew once more on lap 22. However, Fernando and Lance Stroll collided in the most fantastic of ways on the back straight a lap later, after the safety car period. Alonso was shaping up for a move on the Canadian, who moved a touch to the left at the final second, putting Alonso up into the air and heavily into the barriers, whilst Lance's car was left utterly totaled by the side of the racetrack. Phenomenally, Alonso managed to continue, having to change his front wing only and bringing out the safety car to remove the Aston Martin and to brush away debris. By the end of the race, Alonso had managed to recover to 6th place before losing out to Norris, being forced to settle with second best of the rest. However, after the Grand Prix, Haas lobbied a protest against the cars of Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez, the American team complaining that, despite both cars having incurred damage during the Grand Prix, which required a certain part to be replaced during the race, neither car was called in through the use of the black and orange flag, which had been administered to Kevin Magnussen for incurring damage multiple times this season, including in Austria and Canada. Despite the team being unsuccessful in their protest over Checo's